Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to the People Behind People Digital Fishbowl discussion. My name is Abhishek and I'm from Willis Towers Watson. And I'm also joined by my colleague here, Benjamin Ho. And both of us are from the Human Capital Consulting team at Willis Towers Watson and will be your facilitators for this session. The discussion will happen live on Zoom here. And we will also be using the Mural platform as an interactive whiteboard to capture some of our discussions and ideas as we go along. Questions from the audience can come in from the main event site, you could you could type in your questions from the chat box there, and we would get to that later in the session. So today we're going to be focusing on a very interesting topic, and that is of empathy and economics. And it's interesting because these are two words that are not often used, in the same breath, really, because they're fundamentally different. While empathy is all about emotions, most of economics is based on principles of rationality. And there is an inherent kind of a conflict between those two words. So before we begin, and of course, we want to set further context about this topic. Before we begin, it would be good for us to do a quick round of introductions. And also get familiar with the Mural platform. So if you could look at the Mural's website on your screen, you would be seeing there, a space where you could actually click on, double click to create post-it notes and stick them up with your name, your organization, and info about yourself. So if you could just do that very quickly, that will be really helpful just to know who all are in the room here with us today. If you were able to get on the Mural platform, on your screen, you would be seeing a kind of a whiteboard of sorts, which says hello. And if you just double click on that, it will generate a post-it where you could type in your details and introduce yourself. And, just go around quickly. We have a small group here. So if you could just quickly, unmute yourself and introduce yourself, that would be great. I would also encourage, if you could turn on the video as you speak, that would be fantastic. Anela, would you like to go first quickly?
Yes, yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Anela Heitens. I am the head of HR for AWS for the region. I've been in role now for about a year, and I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you. Can we move on to the next person? Stephen, would you like to quickly introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Stephen. I'm from the Singapore National Employees Federation. I'm glad to be here to learn from all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. Josephine?
Hi, everybody. This is Josephine, heading the HR team with Ramada and Days Hotels. Good to see all of you here, and hope to learn a lot from the session.
Right. Thank you, Josephine. Thank you so much. All right. So why don't we, get started? And again, let's not worry about technology, because what we'll do is on our side, we will capture all the inputs that we get from you guys, and kind of draw out that canvas, so that we have something to report back. And again, the way we had kind of planned this session is that we wanted to kind of spend a bit of time just setting the context for our discussion, and then get into some of the specifics and hear from you in terms of what are some of your thoughts, ideas. So it's meant to be pretty conversational, and informal, as we go into things. So as we start, kind of talking about the context, and again, this is something that we are all, immensely familiar with. I mean, even right at the beginning of this year, we were already facing, significant business challenges, across various businesses that we belong to. And there was economic volatility, there was accelerating digitalization, there was strategy and operating model shifts. We were talking about the demand for talent and skills really shifting. And then we had the pandemic unfold, and as it unfolded, it caused multiple crises, right? And thereby creating massive amounts of uncertainty. And if we look at some of the data points, on the screen, we found, for example, that more than 2/3 of the businesses are saying that there's going to be a negative impact from COVID in the next 6 months, and almost 2 out of 5 are saying that they are not even sure what the implications are from a bit of a medium-term 2-year kind of a perspective. But what's very important is that apart from the public health impact and the economic impact of the pandemic, there are obviously very profound implications from a workforce perspective. And that's creating a lot of tension between those two words that we are trying to get our heads around today, empathy and economics. And let me kind of illustrate that with a few data points as we move to the next screen. So again, these are some just data points to kind of put things into perspective, and based on some of the research that Willis Towers Watson has been doing throughout the course of this year, actually. And the numbers are quite humbling. I mean, we have almost 1/3 of companies who are saying that they have already implemented restructuring or intend to do so in the coming months. There's workforce reductions that have happened in the aftermath of that. Companies are also saying that they are really looking at thinking how the operating model works and how work is delivered in the future. And that could mean things like reshoring, location diversification, so on and so forth. And a very interesting trend that we also see is that amidst all of these things that are happening, the pace of automation has been going up. So we were actually reflecting on this, among some of my colleagues. When we actually started doing research around the future of work theme, this was back in 2017 or so, early 2017, we found at that time that across Asia Pacific, about 13% of all work is getting handled through automation. At that time, companies also predicted that that number will probably go up to 22% in the next 3 years or so, which is 2020. Actual data is showing us that that pace has really accelerated. It's gone up to 35% of all work getting touched by automation now. So that's again, opening up a very, very interesting dynamic in terms of what is happening in the new world of work. And in the backdrop of all of that, as we continuously, engaged with employees and got opinions and feedback from them as to how they are feeling, throughout the pandemic, we have seen, very high levels of anxiety being reported by employees. And again, these anxieties are multifold. Some are very explicit in terms of financial concerns. Some are explicit in terms of insecurities, or in terms of how careers are going to go, and so on and so forth. And in fact, all of our data also shows that while overall employee experience held up, across the globe, actually, what we found from our data is that employee experience held up rather well at some of the senior levels in the organization. And when we looked at data from frontline supervisors, when we looked at individual contributor level data, there were concerns there in terms of how the pandemic has affected prospects around careers, prospects around rewards, and the work itself. So there definitely, a bit of a tension that is getting opened up, when we are trying to balance these two factors around organizational sustainability and also the sustainability of the workforce. So before we get into the discussion, I wanted to also quickly share, some key principles that we thought are really important from a workforce and organization perspective. And these principles were designed by us in collaboration with the World Economic Forum. And we thought that should also kind of set the context and the scene for our discussion. So what we advocate for is that we should truly be seeing this crisis as a leadership defining moment. I mean, the actions that we take at this point will be remembered for long and will shape the way our organizations are perceived in the longer term. It is also an imperative that we adopt an agile and continuous learning mindset, because the world that we are living in continues to shift very, very rapidly. And then what is really getting a lot of interest is the concept of stakeholder capitalism. And that really speaks to the idea that we need to really balance the perspectives of multiple stakeholders in decision making. So yes, shareholders are an important stakeholder, but so are our customers, so are our suppliers, and very importantly, employees as well. Because what we believe is that the risks and the benefits of employee and company well-being are really very, very well aligned. And companies should be really making decisions at the intersection of those two very, very important pillars. And that what that means is that the fifth principle is that we need to start balancing out the short and medium-term actions that we are taking versus the long-term business objectives, the long-term purpose and sustainability of the organization. And what that means, again, from an HR perspective, it can take different dimensions. It could mean, really relooking at our organization and our workforce. It could mean, rethinking our employee experience to accommodate for new ways of working. It could mean, redefining careers in this new world of work. It could mean, taking an accelerated lens on upskilling and reskilling as digital transformation accelerates and as automation and technology accelerates. So, so with that kind of a context in mind, and I hope that it is helpful in kind of framing some of the issues. We will start jumping into the discussion here, and just to keep it really simple, what we'll do is we'll first try to understand what's really going on. How was 2020 like? What kind of tensions did we experience in 2020? And then what are some of the key implications of that, of the decisions that we have made? What are some of the key considerations for how we will think about, what we do next? So those are the three broad themes that we'll be talking about. We'll spend about, give or take, 8 to 10 minutes on each of those, areas as we build up the conversation. So the very first, the very first area that we want to focus on is to really understand from the HR leaders, here in terms of what's really going on. And, my first, again, an open question is that what are some of the key tensions or dilemmas you experienced this year as an HR leader, as you were trying to balance the company and employee well-being? So again, if you are on the Mural platform, you can use, you can simply double click and stick up your ideas, with a sticky note, and then we can follow it up and you can elaborate a bit more. Or, we can just have an open conversation here and we will, do the bit on note taking for you. So, any views there? Anela, would you like to get us started?
Sorry.
Anela, are you able to hear me? Okay, now?
No.
Is it any better now or no? All right. While we come back to Anela, maybe we're having some technical issues there. How about Josephine? Josephine, would you share any thoughts you have around as you kind of reflect back on 2020, and again, of course, we're still experiencing 2020. What are some of the key tensions or dilemmas that you faced as you tried to strike a balance between company and employee well-being, between empathy and economics?
Yeah, I think on the one hand, we all want to make sure that we continue to stay employable, provide jobs. Some businesses obviously thrive better than others during the pandemic, right? And we do have businesses that are doing well. At the same time, there are businesses that are affected by the pandemic. So back in our strategic planning would be, how do we keep our workforce employed, and at the same time how do we, bring in, I don't know, new breakthroughs in terms of businesses. So here I am with the hospitality. So I guess, the worst hit in terms of inbound travelers is decimalized. Okay, so we have a very, very low percentage of inbound right now. So I think the key is then how do we do this balancing? Okay, while being the HR lead, obviously we have to consider initiatives to continue to engage our people too. So I think that's currently what's keeping me awake most of the time.
Right, right, right. And Josephine, just to follow up, and of course, what you said makes a lot of sense. Was there, any stories that you have, in terms of some of the most challenging situations that you found yourself in as an HR leader, during the course of the year?
Okay, I think during the onset of COVID, right, we took a very bold steps forward. I know at that time, probably not so much helping the tourism, but employee safety is our priority. So in January, I always remember the date, and I share these stories in another conference as well. It was New Year Eve, Chinese New Year Eve, that we have a communications with our hotels employees that they have to be restricted, or they implemented restrictive traveling. We also control, movement in and out of crews at that time, right? Now, you look back, it's almost a year now. So back then, of course, it's like people are just getting to know COVID. Oh, we don't know anything at all, but we felt that the management felt that this was the important thing to do. We did that, but I looking back, I would say, I'm very happy that we put our people safety as number one. You get noise, you get people who say that I would like to travel, I need to go back to somewhere, I want to have my holiday. So key is also to then show them why it is important for us to implement that strategy, and show them that we care. So this was one of the first bold steps we took at that time. But like I say, looking back, it was really, really an important step. On the other hand, in the midst of it, during circuit breaker and lockdown, where, like I say, business was really down to almost very low occupancy, and the F&B also you cannot operate. So what did we do? So we started to look at training, preparing our people for either cross exposure, new ways of doing our work. And so whether it be in-house or external, by external here I meant virtual. So we also had to learn very quickly how to enable virtual training, how to have online training, how to have all the equipment, and get our people ready for online training to stare at the screen for. One of them has to do online training for 20 days. Can you imagine staring at the screen, learning something for 20 days? It's not easy at all. So this was something that happened around since April. And of course, right now we are facing another phase of challenges right now, business resumptions. Okay, with business resumptions, on the one hand, we don't know what's going to happen in the near future, because we open up bubble before it opens. We have other situations, and again the bubble has not been implemented yet. So then right now banquet or rooms businesses is still there, but then what do we do with our manpower? What do we do with resources that we need? So I have spoken this morning where we can automate, where we can use technology. Obviously we should, and the whole COVID actually accelerated such programs. But at the same time, don't forget about the people we have, giving them the assurance about upskilling them to customers intimacy. At the same time, the office staff, executive office like me, like myself, would then have to go to the ground to provide voluntary services in F&B or in banquet. So this journey itself over a 1 year period, is to demonstrate how situations are evolving and the challenges we face at each stage is different. So yeah.
Yep. Thanks, Josephine. And I'm pretty sure many of us can relate to all of those. And you bringing us back to the eve of Chinese New Year. Yeah, I mean that was one of the moments. Yeah, when it all started kind of unfolding immensely. All right. So I see that we have some other people also who have joined us. Adrian, hi. Would you just quickly introduce yourself to the others on the panel here and share your views on what's really happening? What have you experienced over the course of the year as you balanced try to balance company and employee well-being?
Hi everyone, my name is Adrian. I'm the CEO, founder of Career Agility International. I think many of you might have already known me here, but so I run a career consulting and career strategy firm, helping individuals as well as companies to refine and develop their career development operations. But one of the key things we see in many of our clients this year was that the difficulty with the employees in terms of being agile and pivoting fast. What we saw early part of this year was very fast and furious changes that came in, which forced a lot of companies to change their business models. Okay, so one example for our own example is suddenly we were not able to hold classroom training sessions anymore. And very quickly we had to figure out how to use, we're already using Zoom to a certain extent, but then how do you facilitate using Zoom? How do you work from home? And all these things require a rather open and agile mindset to be adapted, to adapt and to learn. So for a lot of our clients, the challenge was twofold. Number one is how do we get our people to be more agile in terms of learning new skills, to pivot away from the traditional business into the new businesses. So for instance, a lot of the traditional marketing had to be on digital online marketing now. So how then do we pivot into that space? And many employees could pivot fast enough, but there were those who couldn't. And unfortunately, those were eventually let go. So it's quite sad because this year has seen one of the highest retrenchment numbers on record. So the career agility element of your staff, has been a major concern, and how do we raise the career agility of our staff so that we don't have to let them go when another big shift comes along. The other thing which a lot of our clients found was that there was a very high level of fatigue and drain and burnout, because suddenly working from home meant that you were working 24/7 in a way. I was also feeling a bit burnt out. In fact, recently, I'm so glad it's the end of the year now. But besides the burnout, the other comment is that the lack of engagement, because people have kind of forgotten how to have fun. And many of our clients find that the connection between the staff, between departments, have weakened as well. So we've come in with interventions for them to how to have fun, how to play, how to reconnect again. So these are some of the issues which I think are probably going to roll over into 2021. But I'm hopeful that we are quite agile and adaptive as the market goes. And I think we should cope with it.
Sure. Thanks, Adrian. Okay. Stephen, would you like to share your views on this?
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I'm going to put on a mask because I somehow at a workplace. Okay, sure. Now I pretty like your theme about the empathy and economics because it resonates quite well on what we're trying to do, lives and livelihood. Again, I think SNAP, just like any organization, we are so badly affected in the sense that, but the only good thing about it is that we started our BCP even before the circuit breaker to get the staff to be in tune. But during that period, we still haven't get into the full challenge and the fear element until the circuit breaker. Obviously, I got to thank my team. I think Adrian is also one of those trainers that we managed to pivot to actually get him on board Zoom to do online learning and so on. Definitely, we are badly affected. In fact, I lost almost 95% of my business when circuit breaker happens. But again, thanks to the team of associate trainers that we have, we put 100 people overnight into Zoom training. You just can imagine that's the biggest class that I can ever run online, and more than half of us are struggling with it. And next 2 weeks, we get almost 60 to 80% of our courses that we think we can run online to happen within the next 3 to 4 weeks. So we get, thank goodness, we managed to get our business back on track 80% on the second month. Okay, and now, in fact, we are enjoying the fruits of both the online as well as the in-person training, even though we are allowed to do in-person training with SMM put in place, safe management measures in small classes, but at least we get it going so that we can still serve our members in terms of training needs. And also, with that, we are able to also keep our staff gainfully employed, and more importantly is that they have a purpose back into life. I think that's important. Yes, during the period, all of us go through a major change, as mentioned by any of the speakers. Businesses are badly affected one way or another. But again, is that I did notice one thing. The better ones learn faster than others. And I see that there's a strong teamwork of sharing. In fact, we get the staff to buddy each other. The first class, I can still remember a few of us jump in trying to learn from a person that's better, and slowly we do it, and we slowly get everyone to be independent. I myself also get seen to do registration online. I mean, registering someone online and having it in person are two different things. Take for example, and again, the trainers need to adapt themselves and change to deliver, and we have to even overhaul the curriculum to make it even lively as this, is it? So I think a lot of learning takes place, and I'm glad that overnight it seems that all the while we are trying to advocate a learning culture has taken place, and I think we should be continuing doing that. I think we are now in the phase 2. It gives us another kind of a challenge in terms of burnout, stress. Women especially, I think there are more women here than guys probably, I'm not sure. But yeah, women got to do a lot of homework. Homework means those stuff that belongs to the home. And I think the father, the male, is also chipping in greatly. And because we work from home, we tend to see a lot of homework in the sense that related to the home. Okay? And the other thing that is worrying, I think, in all HR mind is, I mean, other than job security and so on, we're also worried that if this were to persist longer, what about employee engagement? And because we need to balance that, and I think companies are starting to look at how you can come in with flexible work arrangement, as long as you don't expose everybody in one location. Something that company really has to look into it, other than just the business, because at the end of the day, businesses run with people. I think that's important. Okay, so I think that's all. I think I would like to probably pause here, that others have a chance. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you. Anela, I don't know if you can hear me now. Yes, you can. Okay,
Yes,
great.
I can. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I can. And would love to hear your perspective. I think there's a few things, which would make your perspective pretty interesting. Obviously, you lead HR for a business which has enabled a lot of digital transformation for businesses, right? And also, you joined the organization just about a year back or so, and you kind of went inside this big storm, which was to unfold. So, what are some of your key reflections or tensions that you experienced, from a workforce and organizational perspective over the last year?
Sure, happy to share. So recently our CEO was on CNBC and he talked about the fact that our company primarily worked from the office. Even though we are a tech company, we worked primarily in the office because we believe firmly that a lot of innovation happens when people get together. And so we had to very quickly, as everybody else mentioned, pivot from working in the office to working remotely. And it wasn't natural because even though we were a tech company, we still did a lot of work interacting with each other. So what we've discovered was that it wasn't that easy because a lot of our work was built so that we were together, and so we had to do some work around enabling our teams to understand what it takes to work remotely. But it didn't take very long because, as you can imagine, with tech companies, we have more tech savvy employees. But we missed the personal interaction, and we missed the fact that it was not as easy to innovate because you are not together. And so we had to find ways and means to come together more frequently, and we had to be creative. So we did we did a lot of things, like quickly, like we used to do happy hours every Friday remotely. We did daily check-ins, stand-ups, which we didn't have to do virtually before. We used to do those in the office, where we would do our stand-ups in the morning, even if it's just 15 minutes to touch base. We used a lot of different types of technology that was out there. So we used a lot of polling technology. We used a lot of new things that were probably we'd never discovered before. And I think the other thing that became very clear was it also because we were work from office, I think most of us didn't understand what it was like to work at home with your kids, with your partner, all in one place. And so we also had to do a lot of work with the HR team to make sure we provided guidance where we could to our employees around, it's okay to have your child come and join your web, your meetings online if they happen to have homework. And so it became a little bit much, again, back to the empathy, right? I think the things that you forget when you're working in the office where nobody comes to distract you, all of a sudden your son comes in and says, "Mommy, I can't do this math problem," or things like that, or "I can't get my technology to work." And I think we quickly, all of us, became attuned to what you were seeing on screen, right? You see your boss with the same thing happening, and so it almost became a natural thing to have your work, your life kind of integrated now into your workspace of being virtual. So and it required, I think, us to change the paradigm that's okay. Like, it's okay to integrate your family into the discussion, your work-life situations, the difficulties that you're facing, and being okay with that. So I think for the most part, we did see an uptick in business because I think you can see the pandemic really moved as many companies to the cloud. That started to happen much more readily and much faster than we thought it would ever happen. And I think the pandemic made that happen. And I think there are a lot of good things with that. There are a lot of good things because there's a lot of tools, software, other ways by which we can collaborate together without actually being together physically. So I think that's helped us really think about our business, helped us think about how we want to interact with each other and act with our customers and our community at large. So it's been a learning journey, is all I can say. And to your point, you have to really put yourself in the shoes of of all those stakeholders, whether they're your employees, your customers, your partners, the community. You've got to put yourself in their shoes and walk in their shoes to be able to understand how you can support them better.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Great. So thanks for sharing that, Anela. So I think I'm just also thinking of what are some of the key themes emerging from the discussion so far, and it's a whole spectrum of things, right? So from hygiene factors around safety, which was maybe our day zero or day one priority at the beginning of the year, to looking at things around how do we adapt to this new ways of working, how do we think about how do we innovate, how do we manage productivity and fatigue in the workforce. How do we ensure learning is happening at the right pace, and also how do we build that engagement and connection? I mean, in some sense, what I'm also hearing is that the pandemic kind of has also made us all more human and more empathetic, because we all kind of were in it together. What I'll be also curious to understand is that so this is on one side from a very employee focused side, but obviously there's the other side which is around economics, right? And ensuring that the organization is sustainable over a period of time as we kind of navigate through this. So would love to hear some thoughts that you may have on what are some anticipated friction points or anticipated trade-offs that we might have to make as we kind of navigate the current environment. And again, trying to balance between organizational priorities and workforce priorities.
Sorry, Abhishek, can you say that again? I missed, you cut out a little bit there. Can you please repeat?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I was saying that we heard a lot of interesting themes, and these themes speak to the whole theme around the workforce well-being, right? Because we need to ensure safety, we need to manage productivity and ensure people are not getting fatigued. We need to help people to adapt to new ways of working and learning and create that level of engagement through high levels of empathy. I also wanted to understand from the group here, the other side of the equation, which is the organizational well-being, right? And I wanted to understand if you see any major friction points or trade-offs emerging as we get into 2021, as we are balancing between company and employee well-being.
Hello, Stephen here. Probably I just like to emphasize a little bit more is that 2021 will be probably a little bit of the effects of a long duration of working from home, probably, and some burnout and stress, and also not so sure about how the economy will pan out to be. Probably we can see some light in certain sector, but I think predominantly those badly affected sectors will still be a bit slow, I would say. Reason being is that this is a global issue that's on hand, and Singapore being small, I think we are quite badly affected. But until then, there's signs of some global recovery, I think we still largely depending on the so-called the small domestic market and a bit of the better industries that are doing well. So I think, but I think that's the reason why we need a lot of concerted effort by everyone to basically stay safe. I think that's important, so that we really keep the local infection down to the minimum. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Stephen. Other thoughts from people on the group?
Okay, Josephine here. So I think, okay, for hospitality, or in particular, this is a hotel industry. Right now, there's still a lot of uncertainty. But in a webinar that I attended in was it October, with NTU and MBS, there is optimism, okay, that the people will start to travel again. It's a matter of when. So with that being said, I think it's still important for the organization to see how else we can re-event ourselves. Certainly it's tough because this is a people industry, right? The connectivity with the customers' intimacy, how do you delight guests, and all that are still very important. So we do have to look at how does all the measures in order to contain the pandemic, in order to contain, hopefully one day we have the vaccine and we'll eliminate the COVID-19. But in the midst of it during the pandemic, how do we make customers and even our employees continue to feel safe about being out there working or being out there to continue your businesses or your work. So I think looking forward, we just have to continue to reinvent ourselves and see how we can do businesses differently. What other disruptive, maybe technology and products or services that can be introduced. Of course, certainly being a HR lead again on the people front is also, you cannot have that people engagement. I mentioned also what I miss most is the cuddle with the team, the face-to-face interactions. But that doesn't mean that we can't have the engagement. So in fact, this is the time that I'm spending more in terms of virtual, sending virtual greetings and all that, because you want your employees on the ground to still feel the presence, or you want to be able to connect with them. So, what do you do in the year 2021 and beyond in terms of new ways to engage with the employees? So I think this is also the time for us to reshape, and this is the time for us to do things very differently.
Yeah. And thanks for that, Josephine. And in fact, I would also be curious to hear from others in this group. That we have our learnings from 2020. We have experienced a fair bit, and we have all these learnings, and now we are looking at 2021. And how are you thinking about some key actions that we need to take to ensure that we balance out economics and empathy? What are you planning to do, or advice that you would have for others in the HR community as they think about navigating this complex conundrum?
One of the things which we see is that in 2021, there will still be continued shocks to the system. We're not out of the woods yet. Everyone seems to think everything is good, but no, we're only at the front end of, we're only at the beginning of the end. So we are going to see more system shocks. We're going to see greater disruptions into the market. And one of the things that as a business, we have sometimes got to make very difficult calls with regards to manpower, with regards to reshaping the business. And what we then need is we need to have our employees to be more resilient, more agile in terms of being able to handle the changes. So one of the things which we have been working with a lot of our clients on is trying to raise the career resilience, the personal resilience as well as the career resilience of their team members, because we have, one of the things we've noted this so far this year, is that the people who were very badly hit in terms of getting shocked, the initial shock of it, were the millennials. And the millennials being those in the early 30s. The reason being that they grew up in a time of relative peace and quiet. The older folks like me, we have gone through 98, we've gone through 2000, dot-com crash, we've gone through 2001, 2003, 2008. The last major crisis was 2008, which means that a lot of the millennials, they've not seen one major crisis yet. This is their first. And it took a lot of them by shock, and they were not able to recover as quickly. So one of the things we are focusing on now is to help people and individuals, employees to build their resilience, personal resilience, their cultural resilience, as well as their career resilience. So that's one of the key skills which we want to focus a lot on, not just for our clients, but also on our own team members as well, moving forward into 2021.
Sure. Thanks for that, Adrian. Anela, did you want to add anything to that, in terms of what advice you will have, for 2021 as we try to strike a balance between economics and empathy, or any advice, in terms of areas where, we should direct our time, energy, and investments to strike that balance?
So I have to agree with all the speakers, Adrian, Josephine, Stephen. I think, first of all, we haven't seen the end of this. I think we're in it for the long haul, because even if we had a vaccine today, it would still take a bit of time for things to settle down. So I think we're in it for the long haul. But one of the struggles we've had, and I think this is true for all companies, is the amount of being remote. It's the always on, being always on a computer all day, and that could stretch to probably even longer than your work hours in the past, because no commuting, you're not going out for lunch, you're not taking coffee breaks, you're not doing all the things that reduce the number of work hours that you normally have. So I think what we're seeing is fatigue, burnout, as mentioned earlier, some mental anxieties, and not being able to balance that out. You come into the morning, you turn on your computer, and you're pretty much there all day. And so some of the things we have to do as an HR function is think about what we need to do differently this coming 2021 so we don't create that burnout situation for our employees. So, for example, really fixing up a schedule that looked like your old schedule, where perhaps you build in the commute times for breaks, you build in the coffee breaks, you build in the lunch breaks, you maybe have days where you don't have meetings to have more white space. So I think trying to find things that you can give, tips that you can give your employees so that they don't burn out and create mental stress. There's also stress when you're in small spaces, like in Singapore, for example. I mean, some of the anecdotes I've received from employees have been, I live in a very tiny flat, and my parents are sitting there in the living room. My workspace is just very close to them, and it's very hard to your point, if they're millennials living with their family, it's very hard to figure out how to create spaces for themselves. So you hear all these things, and you realize that there's more to do to prepare our employees for the next wave. Whether business is good or business is bad, you still have to prepare your employees for the next wave, because if we see this for another 6 months, we're already seeing we are all fatigued, not just our employees. We ourselves are tired. So if we're tired, then they are even more tired.
Yeah, and one of the things, I think we should also lead by example as business leaders. And I'm not afraid to tell my team members that I am burnt out. Okay, I told them early this week. I just told them on a Monday afternoon. I said, look, I need to crash. I'm burnt out. I need to have the whole afternoon off to sleep it off. Okay, and they understood it. And I said, it's okay if you want to do the same. If you need to check out, just check out. So I think as leaders, we need to lead by example.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. I
realized.
Sorry.
Hi, Stephen here. Can I add on?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I think I truly agree with all the speaker. I think even as a leader, we ourselves, we are also human. We also burn out. We also have a family. But again, back to this is that we all acknowledges all these sets of problems. How do we do it? I think it's the word how to. I think, I recently came across something on mindfulness. In fact, I'm getting my whole team to do it. And actually, I realized that the gist of it is a matter of a certain discipline and so on, and also some of these simple techniques that we can use. Though it may look simple, but actually, to be frank, most of us don't even do it. That becomes a problem. Then if we start to do a little bit, I think it's useful. I think the other thing that probably I don't even want to use the word HR, but all line managers, probably HR can catalyze that, because HR is impossible to do for everyone. So you have to think of a way how to catalyze it and get the line managers involved. Is that seriously, all of us need to relook at how we work.
Yep.
You can look at starting from working from home, the ergonomics, and then start to look at helping others as well. And each of us probably all of us are very unique. Every home is very unique, to be frank. But there's certain things that we can help to standardize it. In fact, I've been talking to my IT guys during this period when all of us work at home. All of a sudden, there's a high hardware breakdown. This one not working, that one not working. And then I was telling IT, you have to look at it. And this is something that, another stress for IT, but they are having to look at it and try to discover things. Is it a technical issue or is it a know-how issue? So I think these are things that we need to really resolve it. And I think it's worthwhile doing it. I think that even if we recover from COVID, there may be a very strong chance of flexible work arrangement. We still need to make sure that at the end of the day, the staff are adequately competent to work from, if I use the word, it's from anywhere now, not even from home.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do we really integrate that as part of our life? Then I will see that once you're able to integrate it as part of life, you actually get a lot of benefits out of it. Reason being is that, and trust will be built over time. I think that's important. Then I think we really got a good value proposition, employer branding. Okay.
Sure. Thanks, Stephen. I realize I have not come to Angelina. Angelina, would you like to add some final thoughts? I know we are reaching the top of the hour. Any thoughts that you would like to add in terms of, key priorities or key advice that you have in terms of balancing economics and empathy?
Sure. Thanks for asking. I've been listening quietly because I'm kind of like it's a little bit noisy in the background. Hope you don't mind. But my thoughts are really surrounding mental resilience. And as leader, I think one of the most overlooked areas that can cause fatigue in employees is, in fact, non-stop emails, non-stop calls, because when we move into working from home, it has become so convenient for people to just reach out at any time of the day. And I think that has sort of like I would say maybe it has kind of like turned into a habit that people might have. So I think, and one of the other trends that we are actually seeing is that people are not able to clear their leaves. So we also saw in the news that companies have also allowed employees to carry their leaves forward. So I think people may not be actually getting enough rest. So for me, I think it's really taking the conscious effort to constantly remind the leadership team that people need to rest, and we should allow people, to just not fall into that, mental state whereby, they are just, getting stuck with work all the time. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for that, Angelina. We are all at the top of the hour. Benjamin, do we have any questions coming in from the event site?
No, Abhishek, there's nothing that is coming in from the site. So I think there's nothing for us to address immediately, at least.
Okay. All right. Ben, then do you mind just kind of summarizing some of the key takeaways that we have? Of course, we have we all need to go back to the plenary session and report a summary. So would you like to summarize it for us?
Yeah, I'll do a really quick one because we are at 2:00. But thank you so much for your very good, insightful sharing and honest experience, having gone through this year. But what's very interesting through this conversation is, I think what we've managed to establish is, interestingly enough, economics and empathy doesn't seem to be so incompatible as what people may seem. In fact, if anything else, this year has amplified the the empathy component, and at the same time also in tandem amplify, I suppose, the economics component. I think a term used was keeping people employable and engaged. And it's very interesting through the different sharing. I think what we have actually heard is, if anything else, the people aspect has become even more important. For example, looking after people's well-being in terms of, making sure that they are well equipped, there are good check-ins, that safety has been a priority from the very start and continues to be a priority going forward. If anything else, it has made people and businesses and leaders more empathetic. You're able to see your leader, your managing director, having a child running in the background. And I think to a certain extent, that has actually injected some more humanness in the whole process, actually, rather than it just being a clean-cut hierarchy, and not seeing your boss as being like a robot and you just being a minion in that sense. And on the economic side, in terms of employable, to a certain extent, it's actually accelerated and made more companies agile to a certain extent, right? I mean, a lot of examples were given in terms of the sudden need to upskill. If you don't make it, to a certain extent, it's a kind of natural evolution process also. Those who are unable to, I suppose, keep up, they leave. So to a certain extent, it kind of also brings to the fore the importance of staying up to date, staying current for as individual employees. And in that way, we are actually, I guess, sustaining the economics or the economy of the organization. So it's kind of mutually beneficial. And I think going into 2021, I think what's so just interesting in terms of what has been shared is empathy seems to be key to economics. I think, as rightfully mentioned, it's a very small economy. We depend a lot on domestic, for example, consumption. So we don't keep our workforce healthy, both physically, mentally. That's going to affect whatever little, I suppose, economic generation or growth that we can bring. So that in itself is very important, which is why, different themes about, in making sure that build people's resilience, continue to reinvent ourselves. These are key themes going forward. So I think to round things out, those were some of the key themes. And I think it's really good to hear there's alignment amongst all the different leaders on this call. So thank you very much in terms of what you have shared. And it's been really useful and confirming some of the things that we have heard even from our clients.
Great. Thank you so much. I know that the plenary session has just started. I was looking at the link on the side. So if I could request the IHRP host here to quickly post the